On today's show, what does Luka Doncic's potential return mean for the Dallas Mavericks, and what are the most important things for the Mavs in their last 11 games? Talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Let it ride. Since Isaac Harris couldn't do it on Friday, I'll give you the let it ride today. We got one left over. It's not a Mavs win without letting it ride on Locked On Mavs. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen each and every day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let me know what's the most important thing for the Mavericks in these last 11 games. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Game winner, let it ride! Oh, it feels good. Isaac Harris out at a wedding today. I'm back. Went on a trip with my family to the Grand Canyon. Appreciate everybody that hung out with Isaac while I was out. He did a great job covering for me as always. And that shot from Max Kleber on Friday was maybe one of the biggest shots of the Mavs season. I think Isaac spent a lot of time talking about that shot on Friday, and he may have undersold it. That's how important that shot was, because if you start looking at where the Mavericks are, their record, the vibes around the team, the Maxey overthrow of Christian Wood in the Spurs game on Wednesday before that, like the redemption shot that Kyrie Irving called it, like that, there's some real stuff behind that, because I think that this team needed something like that. They've had so many of these games just go wrong. Think about all the clutch games since the Kyrie trade. They're 5-7 in clutch games since the Kyrie trade. Think about all those games, all the dumb things that went wrong in different ways. Think about all the dumb games this team has had, like lost this season. Remember the Bucks game where they couldn't hit any free throws? They were the Lakers in that game. There's been just so many games like that, and they deserved a game like that. And so I'm very glad they got that game. But today we're going to talk about what Luka's return could mean, because he is listed as questionable for this game on Monday against the Memphis Grizzlies, which I think is important. And it just gives me a little hope. Little hope that he can come back. And so we'll talk about that and what his return could mean. And then we'll talk about the most important things for the Mavericks in the last 11 games. Because there's only 11 left. There's only this amount of the season left. And I think there's some real things the Mavericks have to address and talk about over this next stretch and this next run. So we'll talk about that and get into it. But let's start here with Luka Doncic. So Luka Doncic officially listed as questionable against Memphis Monday tonight when you're listening to this. He is listed as one of the probable starters. Mavs PR sends out like a game, preview thing where they go through and they say, hey, here's your, the media guide, game notes for each game. They do it for every single game, and they list the probable starters, and Luka is one of those. Now, I wouldn't take that as gospel, because that changes. That changes all the time. They're just going with what they think their probable starters are. But that he's listed on there, I think, is a positive thing. And that he's questionable and not like doubtful is good too. It's not probable, right? If you think about the levels of injury, it's available is the best one. He's definitely playing. Probable, questionable is lower, doubtful, and then just like out. I think those are all five. That's all five of them. But with Luka Doncic, he was a full participant in practice on Thursday, March 16th. So this is not coming out of the blue like, hey, all of a sudden he's just back and he's just going to go for it. They've been like monitoring this thigh injury. They're playing it very cautious, and they should. Because think about where the Mavericks are right now. They could be in a scenario very easily where they're in a play-in, where they're playing one game to basically decide whether you're going to play the Nuggets or the Kings or Grizzlies. And I know that there's some people out there that say, whoa, the Nuggets aren't all that, blah, blah. You would much rather play the Kings or the Grizzlies instead of the Nuggets, right? I think we can all agree with that. And so the difference between like, a play-in game with Luka and without Luka is maybe life or death in the playoffs. And if you don't have Luka in the playoffs, it doesn't matter anyway, but they're being very cautious about it. I appreciate them being very cautious about it. Luka also spoke at shoot-around before the Lakers game on Friday. He said, getting better, hopefully by next game on Monday, but we'll see. It's day-to-day. He's day-to-day with all of it. So we'll see what happens with Luka if he actually does play. The last time he played was March 8th against the Pelicans. He's only missed like 4 games. It seems like it's been forever since he's been out, but he's only missed about 4 games now with this specific injury. But this season overall, Luka has missed, 14 games total. 5 games were second night of back-to-backs earlier in the year. Then he missed that 1 game with the left ankle injury, January 28th. He missed 4 games with that right heel injury that he was dealing with from February 4th to 10th. And then he's missed 4 games now with the left thigh injury. So it is positive that like it's left ankle was the first injury for 1 game, then right heel, then left thigh. I mean, at least it's not all the same leg and he's just kind of like dragging that leg behind him. At least we'd have to ask our friend Brian Suterer if that's true, but at least to me, I look at that. And so when you think about Luka coming back, you say, okay, what does it mean if Luka does come back for this Memphis game? Okay, it's so tight right now. The Mavs need every single game. Currently, right now, after the games tonight, Nuggets win, Suns lose, Clippers win, Pelicans win. I think the Lakers ended up winning against the Magic. So right now the Mavericks are 2 games back from number 4 in the Phoenix Suns. That's kind of nuts. Kevin Durant still is not, working on coming back. 1.5 they're 2 games back from the Clippers now too, right? Or 1.5 games back. 1.5 games back from the Clippers now. That's not out of the question for 5th. Neither of those are out of the question. 2 games back and 1.5 games back with like 10, 11, 12 games left for each team. And then the Mavericks sit at 6th. They're a half game up on the Warriors, and they play the Warriors. This is very important. The Mavericks play the Warriors on Wednesday in Dallas, which is huge. The Warriors are a terrible road team, 7-29 on the road. They're 29-7 at home. And if Luka is back for that game, if Luka doesn't play against the Grizzlies, then you're hoping that he's just really wanting to be ready for that game because the Mavericks need this game against the Warriors. And when I talk about the most important things for the Mavericks, this game is almost one of them because the Mavericks are a half game up on the Warriors and they're tied 1-1 in their record. When you look down the standings towards the end of the year now, you start to have to look through the tiebreakers for seeding. Right now, the Mavericks are ahead of the Warriors because they have a better record than them, just slightly. They have 1 less loss than the Warriors. So if you first look at record, so they have 1 less loss, that means they're higher than them. But if they finish the season tied, then they look at your head-to-head record. So Mavs versus Warriors and go by that. And the Mavericks are 1-1 against the Warriors. They play them on Wednesday in Dallas. Hopefully Luka is back. Hopefully Kyrie is playing. And they dominate that game, which they need to. They just need a game like that. Warriors have been bad on the road. And then they win that tiebreaker, and that'd be huge for them. They need this game on Wednesday. So what does Luka coming back mean? It means games like that just means so much more, and that they have a chance to get those games. Mavericks are also only 1 game up on the Thunder for the 8th seed. The Thunder, the plucky Thunder. Shout out to Rylan Stiles and the Thunder. The Mavericks are 1 game up on them, and they are 1-2 against the Thunder. So they do not have the tiebreaker, and they don't have a chance to get the tiebreaker either with them. And so the next stretch, it matters a lot. You have to end with a better record than the Thunder because you don't have a tiebreaker against them. They're 1.5 games up on the Timberwolves for 9th right now. And they're 1-2 against the Timberwolves too. So the same thing against the Thunder and the Timberwolves. You don't have another shot to break that tiebreaker. And so if you end up tied with one of those teams, you are below them if you're the Mavericks. So that's 8 and 9. Oklahoma City, Minnesota. Then there are 1.5 games up on number 10, Utah. They're 3-1 against Utah, and they're 2 games up on the Lakers now, and they're 3-1 against the Lakers. So that's very positive. There's a very small possibility now that the Mavericks will finish out of the play-in unless something crazy happens, right? There's just a lot of numbers in their favor at this point. So coming up, let's talk about what else Luka can do. What other big questions we have about Luka, including, is he healthy enough? And healthy enough for what? We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. You can go see what is available at PrizePicks. You just pick 2 to 5 players and their projections, their scoring. They have baseball right now. You can pick how many earned runs a player has. You can pick all kinds of different stuff with this. You can just spend some time on it, looking up, see what you can. But if you just want to look at NBA, our old friend Brunson playing against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Brunson, 24.5 points, more or less than that. I'll go more, scoring against Mike Conley there. And then you can pick on the other side of it. They don't have any Minnesota players because Anthony Edwards is probably out. You can also pick Mitchell Robinson. He's upset about his role. Who knows how many touches he'll get, but 7.5 points. Give me less on that. You put down $20, you can win $60 on just those 2 plays right there. If you want to add Isaac's guy Terry Rozier against the Pacers on Monday, pick more than 22.5 points. That ups your odds there as well. So go check it out. PrizePicks, use the promo code LOCKEDON. You can get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com. All right, Isaac, thanks so much for hanging out with us, guys, on Locked On Mavs. We appreciate each and every one of you to become part of the show. If you listen every day, you're part of the Raccoon Squad. Thank you so much for making I went on this trip to the Grand Canyon with my family. It's not possible without you guys. I appreciate that. All right. Luka Doncic coming back. Hopefully he comes back against this game against the Grizzlies. If not, then it's probably going to be Wednesday because that game is very important for the Mavericks. I talked about that in the first segment. Now, the bigger question to me, besides just, okay, when does he come back, is how does he come back? How does Luka come back? Is he healthy enough to put forth the effort needed the Mavericks will need to win these really tight games? That Warriors game is not going to be easy. They're going to come in and they know that they need that game too. They know that they've sucked on the road. They know that the Grizzlies and Dylan Brooks are laughing at them and all that stuff. They know that. And so is Luka healthy enough to put forth the effort needed? Because what we saw towards the end when the Mavericks realized we can't just throw this guy out there anymore. It's becoming detrimental. His effort level is becoming detrimental to this team more so than it was in the past. It's not just him missing an assignment on defense or falling asleep at the wheel and somebody catches him backdoor or something like that. It was he can't change directions enough, like fast enough to be able to catch up to guys if he does fall asleep or if he does, miss an assignment by a split second. He couldn't recover enough to even defend or play in the defense the Mavericks that it requires. It requires a lot from a guy like Luka because he's going to be guarding guys in the corners and guys that aren't going to do a lot of stuff, and then then the other team's going to try to move everything around. And then Luka's going to be put in actions, and you have to be ready. You have to be ready to defend at all times with the Mavericks. You can't just hide. It's not the 2000s. It's not the early 2000s anymore. It's not 2010s where you can just hide somebody on somebody. Doesn't work like that really anymore in the NBA. So is Luka healthy enough to put forth the effort? Because part of it was just effort from him. But I think also this injury really did slow him down. You can't just say, oh, Luka just all of a sudden just sucked on defense so bad and blah, blah, blah. It got worse because of this injury. I mean, a thigh injury, plus he's had the same usage percentage on offense. He ratcheted it down on defense way too much, and it became such a big problem. We talked about it on the show for a couple days. But how does Luka come back? Is he healthy enough? There's a couple of Twitter body language doctors looking at Luka limping to the huddle when Maxey got the dog pile after the game winner against the Lakers and saying, man, I don't know about how Luka looks right now. Was he just kind of walking over and sauntering over, or was he really limping? Is he really struggling? What is going on with him? We know that Luka was a full participant in practice. So there's running, there's 5-on-5, there's all kinds of different things that could happen in practice. We don't know what each one looks like. But he did fully participate in practice. He did participate in shoot around. I don't think the Mavericks would send him back if he's literally limping and cannot use his leg. Now, we'll see if I eat those words on Monday, but you got to believe in Casey Smith. If you believe in something, if you don't believe, you shouldn't be here. If you don't believe in Casey Smith, the Mavs, director of player health and medicine and all that. How does Luka come back? That's a big question the Mavs have to answer. And then let's go into the most important things for the Mavericks in the last 10 games, because one of them is with Luka. It's Luka and Kyrie. That pairing, that relationship, those two guys on the court is the most important thing over the last 11 games. You can say health, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but it's them two playing together. They've played in 9 games together. I think pretty much all of them have been clutch games, except for that Spurs game right after the All-Star break. They've played 472 possessions. Ask your local coach, or if that's enough possessions to count as a meaningful sample size.
Twitter isn't the coach.
But it's a decent size. 472 possessions is about 5 full games, give or take. Like if they played all 48 minutes together on the court. So like, okay, 5 games. I mean, it's not telling you everything, but it is telling you something. It's telling you the relative effectiveness. Is this going in a good direction, basically? They have 124 offensive rating. Incredible. Great. Really high. 114.9 defensive rating. For this season, that's average. So it's been fine. When Luka and Kyrie have been on the court together, it's been fine. The offense has been great, and the defense has been fine. That overall comes out to being good. But then you get down to crunch time, and they've lost these games late for various reasons. For the very famous thing when they first were like, oh, you take the shot, you take the shot. And they were passing back and forth, didn't get a shot off. Or when Luka took the contested shot against the Timberwolves when they first were paired together. They've had some moments like that. Can they iron it out? Can they figure out who's going when, what? They figured out some things, but it just takes time and chemistry. And can they get it together? And anytime Kyrie is asked about Luka, he starts by saying, like, I don't know him very well, right? Like, they have not been together for very long at all. And then they've been injured. Luka missed, now these 4 games. Kyrie missed, 4 games of his own. 3 games with the right foot soreness, 1 game right before the All-Star break. Luka missed 2 games right when Kyrie joined the team. So it feels like Kyrie's been on the team for a long time now. They've only played 9 games together. So there still is a lot to iron out about that relationship, how they can, figure that out. I'm not concerned about it. It's looked good already on the court, but they've got to iron out some of those finer tuned details and all of that. So Luka and Kyrie, definitely one of the biggest things I'm looking for this last stretch. I hope that they stay healthy. I hope Luka stays healthy and Kyrie stays healthy just so we can see it. Obviously, this team doesn't go anywhere without both of those guys, anywhere meaningful in the playoffs anyway. But I just want to see those two together more because they can do some incredible stuff. Like watching Kyrie against the Lakers, you're just like, this guy is just what Luka needs at times. Just somebody to take the ball and go get a bucket for you in any situation, at any spot on the court with any coverage. Go get me a bucket, right? He's never had a guy like that. And now he does. So coming up, let's talk about the other most important things for the Mavericks. What are the most important things for the Mavericks over the last 11 games of the season? We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about the Nissan Electric Player of the Week. It's got to be Maxi Kleber, right? I mean, that play where Maxi Kleber gets the ball, hoists it, leaning left to beat the Lakers. They needed a 3 to win. They get the 3. Kyrie is double teamed. An incredible pass from Kyrie. That makes Maxi Kleber the Nissan's most electric player of the week. Brought to you by the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Aria. I know Isaac gave it to Kyrie. I'm giving it to Maxi now because that shot was electric. It was brilliantly fierce when it came off his hands. I mean, the dog pile was stunningly powerful. How Jason Kidd came into the dog pile, and Kyrie, even after the game, was like, Jason Kidd even forgot that he was a coach and jumped in the dog pile. But you love to see that. You love to see guys getting together and just being really excited for a guy like Maxi Kleber that had never hit a game winner in his life in any league, he said. And so that is what encapsulates the 2023 Nissan Aria. It packs pin you to your seat power and premium intelligence all in one EV. Just like Maxi was pinned to the floor in the dog pile, so was the Nissan Aria packed pinned to your seat power. Shop now at nissanusa.com, the EV for people who love to drive. Also, want to tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar, tastes like a candy bar. I took some of them on my trip, and they're delicious. I carried them in my backpack or just in my pocket or whatever. and I was walking the Grand Canyon. I needed something to eat, and boom, brownie batter puff, 140 calories, 17 grams of protein, 6 grams of sugar. I almost did a full live read in front of my mother, who was wanting a snack, and I had a Built Bar, and she pulled it out of the cooler, and she said, "Oh man, I don't know if I want something so sweet. I'd rather just get like a granola bar or something else, or a piece of fruit or something." I said, "No, mom, 6 grams of sugar. It's gonna taste like it's really sweet, but you're not getting all the sugar that you're conditioned to say, oh, I gotta limit my sugar. That's not what you're getting with the Built Bar." So go check it out. They have 2 free bars with every purchase today. So hopefully you're listening to this by the time hopefully that's not over. New mint brownie puff as well. Go check it out. You can get them at Walmart and Sam's Club. Get them on the website. They have all kinds of deals all the time. Go check it out. It's built.com. All right, Isaac. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, making and being part of the show. We appreciate you guys. The most important things for the Mavericks to end the season. Talked about Luka and Kyrie. Just that tandem, that pairing together. We need to see a little bit more of it. They're playing well. The stats have been good, but the clutch stuff has not been good. The last couple of minutes, the last possession, whatever, has not been good enough. The other most important thing about them is just health. I'll get into it now. Luka was, for as much as you want to maybe call conspiracy theory on it, he was limping around going to that huddle or going to the dog pile when Maxey hit the game-winning shot. And so we want to see how he looks. If he plays in this Memphis game on Monday, then I'm very curious to see how he looks. If he plays in that Warriors game, that's going to be a very tough game that they're going to have to play a lot of minutes, and I'm curious to see how Luka looks late. Kyrie also was grimacing around the court, talking about he has right foot soreness he missed 3 games for, and that he thought that Kyrie mentioned, hey, it was a little bit worse than I thought. I didn't realize that my foot was that bad. And even against the Lakers, so he comes back, he misses 3 games, comes back against the Lakers, plays 39 minutes, and he didn't expect to play 39 minutes. You could tell just in his answer. He talked about that with the Pelicans game, playing 41 minutes. Okay, playing 41 minutes, probably too much for me with this foot thing that I'm dealing with. Now, for him, it's just pain regulation and all that. For both of them, kind of. These are not injuries that are something is like broken in them, right? It's just pain at this point. And so they can just wait to heal it up, or they can get back on the court and just hope that they don't like aggravate it or re-aggravate it or something. Tim Hardaway Jr. also has a left calf contusion. He's missed a game here. And so Mavericks are not super healthy right now, but they've just got these little nagging things here and there, and health is going to be big for them throughout the next stretch. Another kind of under the radar thing that has kind of become over the radar, in the radar, under the radar. If a radar is like a circle, can it be over it? I guess not. Or I guess if it's a radar where it's just showing like depth perception, something can be under and over it. That's how you can be under it. If something can be under it, couldn't something also be over it? I'm over this. Kyrie integration on the team. Just him becoming a leader. I've talked about several times. This team needs a leader. Their one fatal flaw is leadership on this team. Who's going to step up? Now you're starting to see this team at least a little bit with Maxey and Dwight and and guys like and Kyrie and guys like that, like just Tim Hardaway and actual like and Bullock and veterans playing. When you have a bunch of veterans playing, you don't need leadership just as much. But when it's a bunch of young guys, you need some guys to you need one figurehead to kind of step up. And when they're trying to integrate new players and Luka is going off and doing his thing, like that, you need somebody. You need a figurehead that can be respected. And Kyrie's integration on this team is really important. And I thought Maxey said something very interesting and brought this up specifically. Maxey makes the game-winning shot against the Lakers on Friday. Dog pile. Everybody jumps on him. Kyrie's right in the middle of it. And then he goes to his presser. Mavs PR, Scott pulls him over. Scott, friend of the pod, has been on the show before. Pulls Maxey over. Leslie McCaslin is interviewing him. Starting to ask him, how did you feel? What did you think about this? In the middle of it, he's asked about something about Kyrie's pass. And he's asked about what Kyrie said to him right after the shot. Maxey hits the shot. Dog pile. Maxey's walking over. Kyrie says something to him. Then he goes to the interview. And she said, what did Kyrie say to you? He said, redemption shot. That's what Kyrie said to Maxey. And if you remember, back on Wednesday against the Spurs, I just watched this game today, they had a chance to seal that game before going to overtime. And Maxey just overthrew Christian Wood from an inbounds pass. Just soccer style, 2 hands over the head, overthrew Christian Wood. And completely overthrew him. If he would have just connected with that pass, Christian Wood goes and makes like a free throw or 2, they win that game without overtime. Then they go to overtime. They end up winning the game, which is great. But just an awful, awful dumb play. And so Maxey hits the game-winning shot the very next game. Kyrie comes over and says, redemption shot. That was your redemption right there. And then Maxey took a second in his post-game interview that was supposed to be about him, celebrating his shot, biggest moment of his career maybe, personally, and says that Kyrie's been a really good teammate, and I've really appreciated what he's been and how he uplifts everybody around him. And Maxey took a minute to talk about that. And I don't think, and I'd spent some time talking to Maxey, and he doesn't say things just to say things. He's intentional about the way that he talks. And I think that was a big deal because Kyrie, for everything that has been said about Kyrie off the court, on the court, I've never really heard anybody say he's not a great teammate. And so I think that's great. Kyrie also said he went into the dog pile. He jumped into the dog pile because he had seen guys get hurt in dog piles in the past in NBA games. And so he went down there and leaned over Maxey and was holding up his weight so that Maxey didn't get hurt. I don't know about you, but that's a great teammate. That's a great teammate because there are guys, and Maxey is one of those guys that could get hurt and pull something or do something at the bottom of a dog pile where you have a ton of huge NBA players jumping on you and just being excited. That's a great teammate right there. So yeah, that's Kyrie Irving's integration, him stepping up as a leader. That all is part of it. And I think that you're seeing Kyrie become that player on this team. It's going to take a little time. It always was going to. But he's starting to become that. You're starting to see Maxey and others acknowledge Kyrie as a leader on the team. Other things that are very important for the Mavericks. Josh Green's confidence. We've seen Josh Green up and down. We've seen Josh Green in a bunch of different roles this season, it feels like. We've seen Josh Green in different roles just in the past 3 games. He's facilitator, he's defender, he's role player, he's starter, he's number 1 option, he's the 5th option. He's just all over the place with Josh Green. And he's a versatile player. To his credit, he's a versatile player that has, his play this season has allowed him to play multiple different roles. But you have him playing 3 games in a row, Memphis, and San Antonio, where Luka and Kyrie are out, where he averages 35 minutes a game. And was in foul trouble in 2 of those games. So he was in foul trouble and he played that many minutes. That's how important he was. He scored 22 points a game in those, 6 assists, 6 boards. He was out there putting up numbers. And then the very next game against the Lakers, he plays 25 minutes. Wasn't really in foul trouble. So it's just part of the rotation. You got Kyrie back. He played a ton of minutes. Tim Hardaway was back too. And so you've just seen him go up and down in his minutes. And then he missed all 3 threes against the Lakers. I'm not saying that these are completely connected, but Josh Green's confidence is going to be massive for this team. He just takes them to another level because of the way that he can move the ball. Tim Hardaway Jr. staying hot. That is a massive thing for the Mavericks too, because when he's hot, the Mavericks just win games. It's been that way since they've had him. If he just hits a bunch of threes, it changes the game. And we've seen the Mavericks over this last stretch, or any time in the Luka era, when Tim Hardaway just hits a bunch of shots, they win games. And you've seen it in this last 2 games here, 1 for 6 for 3, misses a game against the Spurs, and then 1 for 5 for 3. Mavericks almost lose and probably should have lost to the Lakers. So you're seeing the direct correlation right here. But those, 5, 6, 8 games after the All-Star break, 58% from 3. He's just been on fire, and they need to keep that going. They need to keep him hot. And so that's Tim Hardaway Jr. And then the last thing that I really wanted to point out was just Christian Wood's focus. We've talked about his role a ton. I think his role is what it is. We've seen him play a little bit more recently, which I think is positive. It's also because of the injuries. I'm not sure what his role is going to be come playoff time. We'll see. But his focus is what's going to matter the most. The Mavs need him to stay focused, stay engaged, stay with this team, because his biggest problems on the court have been just not paying attention. The not paying attention to details. The 4 offensive fouls was against the Spurs. 4 offensive fouls. 2 of them are screens. 2 of them are him just driving in the lane, sticking his knee up and right into a guy. I mean, just details. Focus on what you're doing in front of you, because he's been his biggest detriment on the court. Focus on missing assignments or missing a backdoor cut or not knowing who's gonna, who's supposed to rotate here on defense. Like, that's the thing. And so I think an important thing for the Mavericks is Christian Wood's focus. And does Jason Kidd have his ear enough to keep him focused? Or does any coach on the team have his ear? I don't know about that. I would guess Jason Kidd may not at this point, but we'll see. So there you go. That's the most important things for me. Let me know in the comment section below what's the most important thing for the Mavericks over the last 11 games. We'll be back tomorrow with the post game after the Grizzlies. It'll be Isaac and me together. Appreciate each and every one of you that made us part of your day. And go listen to Locked On NBA Game to Game. Every moment, every top performance from local analysts like me. Go to Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom.